Hey guys, I'm Gabe Landeskog, and you're listening to Chasin Birdies.
We are back here for another episode of Chasin Birdies. My man JP, what is up, bud? You looking great right now, buddy.
What's shaking, Bacon? How are you?
Dude, it's just good to be back here having a little another podcast. We had a great episode a couple weeks ago, and here we are again, babe. It's just
that was a good one. We got a lot of compliments on it, so that was good to hear. It sounds like we're doing something right.
True.
But today's episode is brought to you by Lynx Brewing, so go check them out at lynxbrewing.com. Again, the blonde ale, dude, it's so good. It is good. I was at your house chugging a few back the other day, so I guess I got to replenish that for you. Sorry about that. But go to lynxbrewing.com, pick yourself up some Chasin Birdie Blonde Ale for your Christmas parties. We would greatly appreciate it, and so would the boys over at Lynx Brewing.
Lynx. There you go. There you have it, guys.
How you doing, bud?
Buddy, I'm great, man. It's a good weekend. I smoked some chicken thighs this weekend, and I smoked macaroni and cheese. I made the mac and cheese from scratch. It was incredible,
Wow.
dude. I got the smoker out again. Shout out Willie Robertson for hooking that thing up, or at least influencing me, at least. Smoked the mac and cheese, smoked the chicken thighs. Turned out great. Had a couple cold ones.
How was the mac and cheese? You used a couple different cheeses, bud?
I used a little Gouda, and I used a little cheddar, and I used a little cream cheese. Does that count as a cheese? Kinda.
I can't. But this is like a heart attack.
Oh yeah, dude. It's
my cholesterol would be
one serving's like, I don't know, 600 calories or some bullshit. But
sweet.
It was dynamite, dude. Good weekend. Little win for the Steelers, getting it done down there. Nice win for Victor Hovland over there in the Hero World Championship.
Yeah, so a ping boy, and you know who else is a ping boy?
You, baby.
Bud.
Tell me about this right now. I mean, I know you're in Scottsdale as we speak, and you got a little something lined up. Well,
I'm actually going over there this morning to get fit for the 230s, the I-230s. Well, that's what I have in my head. They could say, listen, bud, you might need these shovels over here. And I'll listen. So there could be potential. I come home with graphite shafts and shovels and iron head covers on.
I feel like there was a time in the last 3 years where you had a new set of ping irons, and they were like the butter knives. And I feel like
the
they got
I-59s. That was this year, bud. They again, I didn't get fitted for them. I just used the same specs, but I'm not good enough to play the I-59s. That's basically what it came down to.
Okay.
So, and I'm fine saying that.
How you feel about your swing
I want to
right
make
now?
the game of golf easier.
Well, you haven't played in a while, and you're getting fitted.
Yeah, but same thing you did at Titleist a couple years ago, so that worked out.
Hey,
but I'm looking forward to heading over to the boys at Ping, and you know, again, so congrats to Victor Hovland, and I'm not comparing the game to him at all, but you know, we're both Ping guys, so.
Dude, all this video circulating of Charlie Woods and all his little shots that he's hitting, and Tiger Woods in the background with his mouth drop. I mean, dude, this kid is just going to be... I'm excited for him, man.
A stud. But let's
I love it.
Not put pressure on... Let's not put pressure on a 13, 14-year-old or whatever, however old he is. Let him enjoy the game of golf, and the results will come. So
yeah.
And I think Tiger's keeping that within reason. So
certainly. Before we introduce today's guest, I just want to say for the West Virginia listeners out there, if you're involved in the WVGA at all, the WVGA is putting on a great event in February out in Scottsdale during the Waste Management. They got some golf going on, a couple rounds. So check them out, at WVGA.com. If you want to head out there with them, the boys are looking for a couple people to go. It'd be a great getaway for you guys to knock the rust off. So
and the Super Bowl.
And the Super Bowl. So good times. But yeah, we don't have a Super Bowl champ on today, but we do have a Stanley Cup champion on today.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess we had Phil Bork on in the past, but Gabriel Landeskog, we call him Gabe. He corrected me on that very early in the interview. Captain of the Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champion last year. But what do you think about it, huh?
Hey, We do have to thank Jamie over 44 Concierge for setting this one up, because he got
Big
it
shout
done
out,
for us.
Jamie.
So thank you for getting this done. And I think that we should roll it in and let people hear from old Landy, the Stanley Cup champ.
Let's do it. All right, y'all. We're back here on another episode of Chasin Birdies, and today's guest, the former winner of the 2022 Stanley Cup and the current captain of the Colorado Avalanche, Gabe Landeskog, joining us here on Chasin Birdie. My man, what's shaking?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
No, thank you, man. Thank you all the way out in Colorado. How's the weather?
Pretty good. We got hit some snow here last week, but sun's shining as it usually does here in Colorado. So snow's almost gone, and back wearing a T-shirt today.
That's right.
That's the biggest misconception about Denver, I will say. You think it snows there all the time, and it actually doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of having absolutely no idea what Colorado was like. When I got drafted here 12 years ago, I was like, it's going to be cold, get my winter coat on, and me growing up in Sweden and previously played junior hockey in Toronto, I was used to the cold, but coming here, I mean, the sun, we get over 300 days of sunshine every year, which is, I believe that's more than Florida.
Yeah.
So it's, even though we get our fair share of snow and whatnot, it's easy to get up and get out and shovel when the sun's shining.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, man. Colorado is my favorite state, period. I go to Vail often, every year. I love Colorado. And the cold you can handle from time to time, but up in the Northeast, it's just constantly gray in the winter months. So it becomes very depressing. Whereas when you're in Colorado, like you just said, man, you got over 300 days of sunshine a year. Who cares if it's fucking 50 degrees, 40 degrees? Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, we got plenty of days when driving to the rink in the morning and it might be snowing or might be a little cold, and then by the time you get out of practice, early afternoon, snow's melted and sun's shining. So it's a great place to live. Honestly, it's if we get all four seasons, sometimes the fall and spring are pretty short, but man, it's a good place to live and raise a family, and it's a great place.
Do you live there all year round, or do you go back home to Sweden for a little bit of the summer?
Yeah, so I married a Canadian girl. So my wife's Canadian. She's from just outside of Toronto. So we spend quite a bit of time in the off season just outside of Toronto, a little bit north, and go back to Sweden for a couple of weeks every summer for sure.
Yeah.
Used to go back for longer, but now with two little babies, it's we're keeping us busy, and yeah, it's one of those things. Summers are short enough as they are, and especially this past summer, we don't want to. For selfish reasons, we don't want to be bringing them there just so I can catch up with some of my buddies,
right,
and family and whatnot. So we stay in Toronto quite a bit, and in Denver, obviously.
The summers for hockey players, I got some buddies in the NHL, and it's just like, dude, their summers are so packed, and it's like, dude, you want to go play golf? No, I got to go here for the weekend. I got to go there. It's just constant movement in the off season for you guys. So when the season comes, you're probably like, thank God, like there's some at least
a routine,
schedule, a routine, or whatever.
Yeah, and you really hit it there, because it's the summers do get crazy packed, and especially the age. Now I'm about to turn 30 here in a few days, and but we're still in that age where a lot of our friends are getting married. So you got 4 or 5, 6 weddings every summer. So there goes 4 or 5 or 6 weekends, and you want to try to make sure the off season is relaxing as well. But I think people have a bit of a misconception about what athletes off season can look like at times. Obviously you take a couple of weeks here and there and, get some rest and might go on a trip or vacation, whatnot. But, or at least for me, I'm in the gym or on the ice 5 days a week. And I think that's pretty standard across the board. So to try to keep your routine, just like you guys are talking about, the routine is important for us. It's not like I go out Monday and work out and then I go, have a big event or go party Monday night. You try to stay pretty dialed in Monday through Friday, and then weekends, they can get away from you pretty quick. So,
and you got 2 little kids too that you want to do things with. I mean, that life changes as well.
It sure does. The priorities change, and I'm not going to bend over backwards anymore to make sure I fit in, all weekend trips and things that, some of my buddies that don't have kids might want to do. So priorities are a bit different, and I like it that way. It keeps me a little bit more chilled out and at home a lot more.
Yeah, and when you get to do stuff, then you actually enjoy it, because then before it's just monotonous. You continuously, every weekend, go and have drinks, play golf. It's just the same thing. Yeah, it's like Ryan's life.
Well, not really, but kind of.
So you started, obviously, hockey at a very young age in Sweden, and grew up through the ranks. You came to, as you said, Toronto, played juniors. How did you get from Sweden? Obviously, you were an elite player as a kid, but is that something where you get told, hey, you're going to Toronto, or is that where you picked, or how did that all transpire?
Yeah, it was kind of, looking back at it, that's a big decision for me. But at the time, so I guess I was good as a 14, 15-year-old, but not like top of the line. I was good enough to get called up, and my game was well-rounded, and I was strong enough to play with the older kids and juniors back home. And then, one day I get the phone call from my head coach, and in Sweden, the system works a little bit different. In Sweden, so the elite league there, the men's league, they all have junior teams below them, but within the same organization. So I was playing for Djurgården at the time, which is right in Stockholm, and playing for their junior team. So I got called up to play in the men's league, which at the age of 16 is pretty, it happens, but it's early and you're young. And they offered me a contract in the spring of 2009. But I felt for my development, I'm like, yeah, I can go up and play men's league, and yeah, that'd be cool. You make some money as a 16-year-old, but then I have to thank my dad and my agent as well. They kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, and just sort of, introduced me to the thought of maybe going over to North America and playing junior hockey. And once I went over and visited the Kitchener Rangers playing in the OHL, but as well as the Mississauga St. Majors. They're in the OHL as well at the time, and I visited these two teams. I got to meet with the coaches, the GMs, got to see the rink, got to meet some billet families, which is when you play junior hockey in Canada, you move in with a family, and they house you and feed you and take care of you. So once I got to see that side of it, I'm like, man, this is not only going to be good for my development, I think, playing with kids my age, but in a North American environment, and learn the game that it's played over here, because ultimately I wanted to play in the NHL. Right. But also I saw it as an amazing adventure, and just an experience to move away at that age and to learn to live by myself, or even though I'm with a family, you have to kind of mature a little bit faster than living, with your parents. So that was very enticing to me, and so I ended up moving over that fall, the following fall in 2009, and played 2 years of junior hockey in Kitchener, made lifelong friends, developed like a hockey player, like I didn't, at the time when I was in Sweden before I moved over to Canada, I was sort of this power forward, penalty killing guy, hardworking, kind of hit everything that moved, sort of limited skill because I played up. And when you play up, sometimes what can happen to players, you don't want to make any mistakes. You don't want to, take too many risks out there. And that was kind of my game. I just had sort of dumbed it down to a level where I could survive and not make any mistakes, but I wanted to get better and I wanted to develop, and I got the chance to do that at Kitchener. And 2 years later, I got drafted to Colorado and been here ever since. Boom. So it was a life-changing decision for me, and not only for the hockey aspect, but, to learn to handle myself on my own in a foreign environment with people I didn't know. I think that was crucial.
Now, at your age in Sweden, for people who don't know, ice is bigger over there, correct? At your age too?
Yep.
Yeah. So
all the way.
Whenever you come to North America, was that a huge transition for you? Or did you kind of like a player of your caliber might like a little bit smaller ice because obviously you can maneuver a little bit more than other people?
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely an adjustment, but I picked it up pretty quick in terms of, I'm a forward. So as a forward, the defenseman's on you right away. You don't have that much time. Whereas over in Europe, you might you get the puck in the corner and you got to, an extra half a second to get your head up and make a play. But so it's definitely tighter and more physical that way, which I liked. I've always liked the physical aspect of hockey. And but I think the one thing that changes the most is probably the angles. And, over there in Europe, if you're stepping off the half wall and you're attacking the net, you're shooting from outside the dots. It's not particularly dangerous of a shot. But over here, because it's tighter, the angles are a little bit different. You create more scoring chances that way. And that's why I think I've been a big proponent of, for the European rinks to change in smaller as well. It just becomes more exciting for the fans as well.
Right. And so you get drafted second overall. Again, this is kind of one of those things that obviously you weren't disappointed your second NHL draft, but were you kind of like, were they slating you at number one, or were you kind of slated at two and that's where you went?
It's funny, man. The NHL draft is just, I guess any draft, but from my experience, the NHL draft is sort of you're in this, when you're in your draft, you're in this bubble and all the scouts are in the bubble with you and the rankings come out and, everybody's checking the rankings, whatnot during the season. And at one point, I think halfway mark, I was number one, but in my head, I didn't see myself as a number one. I think you look at the number one picks, they're highly, highly skilled. They put up over 100 points every year in junior and they're just lighting it up. I was just sort of more I don't know what you'd call it, but a power forward that had a knack for scoring goals, and I was a 200-foot player, and I think you look at the point totals in that draft year. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was drafted number one. He went to Edmonton. He had over 100 points in 60-something games, and then it was me sandwiched in between Nugent-Hopkins and Jonathan Huberdeau, who plays for Calgary now. And both of those guys were over 100 points. I was sitting there with 66 points in 50-something games, which is still not bad. But when you compare it to those guys, it doesn't do a whole lot. But I think the reason why I was drafted was more than just sort of the offensive gift and the offensive skill. It was, they talked about intangibles throughout my whole draft and the combine and whatnot. And at the time, honestly, I wasn't too sure what intangibles meant. Kid from Sweden, I'm like, that's a big word. I'm not sure exactly I know what that means, but but nonetheless, got drafted to Colorado, which I had idolized a lot of Colorado teams growing up. I had a big poster of Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, listening to Stanley Cup in my room. So kind of surreal moment, but made myself a home here, and this is where I love to be, and feel like this is basically the place where I see myself for the rest of my career. Yeah,
it's a great place to be. I mean, and again, now we'll move quickly through your NHL career because we want to talk about golf with you. And, you've had an incredible career so far in Colorado. You guys kind of had a team there, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, that they were the ones to win the cup. And some injuries, I believe, happened. And finally, you get that Stanley Cup last year, which you guys were kind of picked from the beginning to make it all. And that's a lot of pressure for people that I don't know because I'm not a professional athlete, but friends that I know, that's a lot of pressure on you. If you have a bad week in NHL, you lose 3 games, 4 games in a row, the media's on your ass. What was that whole thing? Was a letdown have to happen first and then to get to that? Or what kind of walk us through that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's funny you say that because it's at the time. So when we started making the playoffs, we started making it into the second round. I think we lost in the second round 3 years in a row. But at the time, you're telling yourself and you're talking to the media and you're saying the same thing that, hey, listen, you don't need the heartbreak to win. You can just kind of cruise right through, and teams have done it before, and but now, having won it and having gone through it, we were definitely not ready even 2 years ago, let alone 3 and 4 years ago when we kept losing in the second round. So I do think there's a reason why you see teams knocking on the door before they win it all, because you have to learn how small the margin for error is in the playoffs. You have to learn how crucial momentum swings are, and every shift and momentum swings. We always talk about momentum, but it's true. And learning how to manage that within a team of 24, 25 individuals, you got to have everybody on board. So Yeah, it was, it sucks at the time because even getting to the second round isn't easy.
No.
Let alone getting to the playoffs. There's a ton of good teams every year that miss the playoffs, and it's not easy. But this past year, we just kind of felt like, we had this just silent, just quiet confidence about our group that, it wasn't about getting into the playoffs. It wasn't about getting to the second or third or getting to the finals and gaining that experience. It was all the way from training camp. It was talked about winning and just setting winning habits and just the championship mentality of just, we'd rattle off 5, 6, 7, 8 straight wins in the regular season. And it was just sort of, all right, you leave the locker room at night and you just forget about it, move on. Like, what's the next thing? We just kept moving it forward. Same thing in the playoffs. We were playing well and, a couple of sweeps in the first 3 rounds, and we roll into the finals against Tampa Bay, who'd won, 2 straight years, and all of a sudden, like, we just kept moving that goalpost. We just kept saying, okay, what's next? And that ultimately propelled us to winning. It was a fun summer.
That's the thing that's so crazy. It's every shift matters in the playoffs. I mean, it is crazy. And the crazy thing is that the goaltender you have to have a great goaltender. You have to have great defense, forward. You got to be scoring goals too. I mean, there's so much that has to go right to win a Stanley Cup. It's like a golfer in a major championship, right? You said something there that's true in golf too. You might not be ready to win yet. You look at somebody like Sergio Garcia, who's only won 1 major, and he's had all the, like you said, the intangibles. And he's won 1 because he might not have been ready at that point in his career or whatever it may be. So you win the Stanley Cup.
No, I was just going to say, I think there's a maturity level there within the team, within the organization, to continue that mindset, like you said, of moving that goalpost, taking one step at a time in a concerted effort. And, I think at that point, that's when success is earned. It's not given, it's earned.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened with you guys. I mean, you did it. You guys probably kept quiet, like you said, forgot about the game that you just swept or the series you swept. Next thing you know, you're standing against Goliath a little bit in terms of Tampa Bay Lightning, and you take them down. So, hats off to you. I think it's a maturity thing within the team.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. I would imagine that, it is similar for golfers. The one thing about golf, and the reason why it's so damn hard is because it's all you. There's no, like, if I'm having a tough night on the ice or, whatever, I got 2 line mates that help me out every shift, and they can pick me up and make me look better than I deserve. And if they're having an off night, then, I step my game up. In golf, there's nobody coming out to save you there.
Right. Yeah. And so you hit 000s on the scoreboard. You're a Stanley Cup champion. What the hell are you thinking? Like,
oh man,
like,
I mean, it's just, you really cannot describe the feeling that kind of rushes through your head and your body at the time, because it's like, I've watched the video back, and when that buzzer goes, I launch my stick so high up in the air. I don't even know where it lands. I had no worries about where this thing was landing. And then you just it's just mayhem. You just go into celebrating. You've been in this playoff bubble, let alone the entire regular season, but the playoff is so intense, and you have this mental warfare with yourself the entire time as you move closer to the Stanley Cup and your end goal. You're putting your head on your pillow every night thinking, is this really going to happen tomorrow? Is this really going to happen? Are we going to get 1 game closer to Stanley Cup? Are we going to have a chance to win it tomorrow? And then when that buzzer went, it just, everything is off. And you just, you're in shock, you're screaming, you don't have a voice. And then I remember shaking hands with the Tampa Bay Lightning and, seeing their faces, and obviously they've done an amazing job reaching the finals 3 years in a row, winning 2 out of them. That's very impressive. But I remember after that, as we're kind of standing on our blue line, waiting for them to hand out the MVP and then eventually the Stanley Cup. I find my dad and my sister in the stands. I saw them and I was trying to get their attention. I'm waving at them, and finally we make eye contact. And as I make eye contact with my old man, I just, start, everything's just coming undone.
Yeah.
You just lose it, and I'm just crying.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when it hit you, and I couldn't hold the tears back. And it just, for everything that, my dad has done for me, but also, the ups and the downs, and he's sort of been that steady rock throughout all of it, all the tough seasons, tough games, tough, playoff exits, whatever. It's just so much build up to that moment, and such an amazing relief when it happens. And, and then you go on and you go from that bubble where you just zoned in for 2 months, barely having a glass of wine, to, going in the locker room
it's for
champagne
breakfast
and beer. And exactly. It's like you average probably 3 hours of sleep for a week, 10 days, but it was so much fun celebrating. Love to go back and do it again.
So again, I mean, that trophy, the Stanley Cup, is the most recognizable trophy. If you're not a hockey fan, you know what it is.
Oh yeah.
And in Pittsburgh, when they would take it around, man, they would come in the bars and just hoist it up. I mean, Phil Bourque talks all the time. A buddy of ours, Phil Bourque, play-by-play for the Penguins now. He said he took the Stanley Cup down to the Ocean City, Maryland. He said, I just walked in a random bar. I knew nobody there, and I just hoisted it. And I partied with a bunch of random individuals, and it was the best thing ever. And so for you, what was your day with the Cup like? Did you go back to Sweden? Did you go to Toronto? Where your wife's from? What was that like?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough as a captain. It's sort of a tradition that the captain gets 2 days with it if he chooses. And for me, I've been with my wife for over 10 years, and we made a life in Toronto. And so we were lucky enough to get 1 day in Sweden and 1 day in Toronto. So my day in Sweden was, with me growing up there, I wanted to make sure I shared it with the community, and took it to my old school, walked it around there, kind of on the schoolyard, where I played a lot of street hockey and a lot of soccer, and just sort of with my athletic ability kind of started, I think. And then I took it to my hockey rink where I grew up playing, and took pictures there for 2 hours with kids and just fans in general. And then I took it to hospice in local Stockholm, where I wanted to make sure, families and staff and the kids and that were going through a tough time, that they got a chance to see it and take pictures with it. And then at night I just kind of threw a party there at a local restaurant. We had a great time. But let me tell you though, as your day with the Cup is happening, you just you have a smile on the entire day, and you're holding you're holding a pretty heavy trophy the entire time. You get tired and you're sort of exhausted. So when they take the Cup at midnight, I hopped in an Uber with my wife, and I said, we're going home. This is enough. It's just sort of exhausting, and I think it's fun, and I'd love to do it again, but it gets a little overwhelming almost.
Yeah.
Because you want to make sure you share it with everybody. You want to make sure you take a picture with everybody, get everybody taken care of. So then when we did it in Toronto a month later, we just kind of had a backyard party and let people come over if they wanted to, and it was just sort of more chill that way, and thoroughly enjoyed it.
How many beers fit? How many beers fit in it?
Oh, I think at one point when we partied the week in Denver after we won it, we had, I don't know if we had like 15 beers in at one point, and then you just, but you don't realize how heavy it is. You fill it up, it gets heavy as you, and the rule is, if you want to pour it into somebody's mouth, somebody that has won it has to be responsible for pouring it. So there's two guys at all times just kind of pouring, but you got to switch out because it gets so heavy. But man, we had a blast, and we had sangrias and that thing. We had margaritas. We were doing shots. We were doing whiskey. A lot of different booze went through it. And I don't think we're the first or the last team to do that either.
No, you ain't gonna be.
So
the last.
I do have a funny Cup story for you. Phil Bourque, who I just mentioned, was telling us a story. He took it down to Ocean City, Maryland, and he got home. This is back in 91, 92 when he played for the Penguins. Gets home, feels a little rattle around, so he sees that there's a screw loose. He takes a pencil light, goes in, he's tightening the screw. There's two names carved into the cup. So a light bulb goes off. He takes a screwdriver and a hammer, and he carves his name, Phil Bourque, back-to-back champs on the inside of the cup.
No.
He said I'm the
No way.
Yeah, he said I'm the only guy to have it on the outside and the inside.
Yeah.
He just starts dismantling,
Yeah.
doing some handyman work by himself.
He said he sat there for like 6 hours just pounding away.
Oh, that's amazing.
Well, for you though, Gabe, I mean, I got to be honest. The Avalanche in Denver right now are probably arguably the best sports team going right now. I mean, you know, you had the time of the Broncos being the powerhouse they were, especially when Peyton Manning, and obviously the Nuggets and the Rockies. And I don't know too much about that, but obviously, you know, you guys have kind of rejuvenated, resparked, if that's a word, the whole Denver area with respect to hockey and sports. And so it's kind of cool to, I guess, win the cup, be the captain of the team, and it's arguably the best sports team that Denver has right now. Would that be true?
I think so. I think that's a fair assessment. I think what people don't realize is Denver's and Colorado as a state is such an amazing sports place, and people really, as a sports town, they support, you know, whether it's us, the Nuggets, Broncos, Rockies, like you mentioned, or the Rapids, our soccer team, or even the Mammoth, our lacrosse team. We got all of it, and people are so happy to say hi to their sports, you know, their athletes, and they're super respectful. I think that's the one thing that's been the best, and people are super excited about us right now, and obviously we brought the Avs back to where they belong. You know, when the Avs first came here, winning the Stanley Cup in 96, the inaugural year, coming back here to Colorado, and then winning again a few years later in 01. I mean, they sort of got spoiled the first few years as Avs fans here. And then it was you know, 21 years of nothing. And so I think a lot of Avs fans are kind of waiting for this. And now that the core of the team has been around for a while, so it feels good to bring it back to where it belongs. And Avs fans, you know, you meet them all over the place, and they're just super happy to support us and to be a part of a championship run, and to see that banner go up opening night was pretty special, and the fans deserve it.
Yep.
But like I said, I was here when the Broncos, you know, when Peyton was here, and I watched the parade when they won. Was it 2015?
Maybe 2015.
Something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be off my years, but, you know, and I remember thinking, man, the Broncos are the hot ticket in town right now. I wish we'd be that, but, you know, and you go through cycles. Teams go through cycles, and sometimes you good years and sometimes you have bad years. But I think knowing what it felt like when we weren't as relevant, and we weren't the hot ticket in town, you know, it makes you appreciate the good times right now.
Yep, and I think that's exactly what I was trying to say now. You know, and it might not have anything, or it might have something to do with the fact that Colorado recently legalized magic mushrooms. So maybe everyone's just extra happy right now. I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, Bronco Nation, let's ride.
Here we go. All right, so golf. Now let's talk a little bit about golf, Gabe, because
I have to say, we're transitioning into golf right now. I have to say the only reason I knew about Sweden previously was because of Jay Lindbergh. Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
and I thought I was dressing like Camellia Villegas back in the day with the sweatbands on my wrist and everything. So, where did your passion for golf come from? Was it in Sweden, or whenever you kind of got to the States and started having a little more off time during the days?
Yeah, sort of two-part answer. I think it started when I was younger. You know, 10, 11, 12. My dad would take me out. My mom played at the time as well, so they would take me and my brother and my sister out to the driving range. We'd go hit some balls, and we go play. So that's kind of where I learned the foundation of the golf swing and the game. My dad would take me and my brother out, play 9 holes here and there, and eventually I just sort of take buses and trains to the golf course where we'd play at. Take me half an hour, 45 minutes by public transit. Public transit is pretty big back home, so it wasn't a big deal. But lugging the golf bag around, and I'd go play with 9 holes or 18 holes with strangers, and just sort of fell in love with the game. And then as I, you know, came up my teenage years, you know, a lot of focus went into training in the off season, and just got a lot more busy with that and didn't have as much time for golf. And then when I came over here and started, got drafted to Colorado and realized how great of a climate this is and how everybody on the team play golf, I sort of picked it back up and started getting serious with it again. And, struggled a little bit on and off. I sort of this mediocre mid-80s golfer, trying to get better, but not willing to put enough work in on the driving range.
Right.
Chipping and putting, and you just think that, today's a new day. I'm going to go out and shoot sub 80 today. It just doesn't work quite that way. And now lately I've been starting to put some more work in again and trying to dial in the swing, trying to fix up my face angle, my launch angle, my inside out, trying to do all of it, but sometimes it's a little too much. So this summer wasn't great for me. I don't think I broke 80 once, but get back there.
Well, that's it. That's the problem. I mean, with all of us amateur golfers, we start trying to do things
we shouldn't be doing.
Well, right. It's fine to do them and work on them off the course. When you get on the course, you got to play the game. So you start tinkering with stuff, and next thing you know, you're blading chip shots from the front of the green like my boy JP here. I mean, it's like, bud, what the fuck was that? What are you doing? That's
exactly it. All of a sudden, I worked on something on simulator with one of my friends who's used to play on the Canadian tour, and now he's a member at my golf course here. Anyways, we start working on things, and then I get out on the course, and he's always like, just play. And I'm all of a sudden I got 14 different swing thoughts. I'm trying to tinker with something mid swing, and it just never works that way. Gotta let it happen and put in enough time where it becomes sort of natural, I think.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're like me. I don't want to practice. I just want to go play golf. No. If I have the time to go play or to go golf, I'm going to go golf on the golf course. Grab a few beers, light a couple cigars, and enjoy myself. But
it's also probably not conducive to you trying to putt from 100 yards.
Well, that too.
Because you need to practice that a little bit. So where are you at? Are you at, where are you, I should say? Never end a sentence in a preposition. Are you at Cherry Hills, Denver Country Club? Where are you playing out there, Gabe?
No, I'm at kind of Cherry Creek Country Club. It's a little bit out east from Cherry Hills.
Okay.
My wife and I bought a lot fairly close to Cherry Hills Country Club. So in a couple of years, I think I'll join out there. But right now, I'm just kind of schmoozing off of Nate McKinnon's and Eric Johnson's membership. So
there you go. Yeah,
that works. We just play out there quite a bit. But kind of bounce around a little bit all over. There's a lot of great golf courses around here, and especially if you go over to the foothills, it's a lot of fun golf and a lot of different golf. I know the Linnegers pretty well at Sanctuary Golf Course, a little bit south. Pretty unique golf course and a lot of fun. So we have the pleasure of going out there quite a bit, and it's just the views there, you can't beat it. Some of these 200-foot drop-off from tee to fairway,
right.
it kind of hurts my eyes as I'm standing up there, as trying to hit a perfectly straight drive isn't always the case, but nonetheless, a lot of good golf courses around here.
You guys got a lot of guys on the team that do play golf?
Yeah, quite a bit. There's always, that's a funny thing about hockey. And I think that's what my dad used to play hockey growing up, and I think that's why he started, is because the seasons just align perfectly.
Right.
Normally by the time the hockey season's over, then sun's shining, 70 degrees outside, and you can go out and play. So we got quite a bit of guys playing on our team, and try to get out as much as we can. Normally training camp is pretty busy golf-wise, and sort of end of the regular season, into the playoffs. Sometimes you can get a couple of days in between rounds in the playoffs to go out, at least play a little bit. You don't really expect to play well then.
You just want to get your mind off hockey for a couple hours.
Exactly. But then I come back more pissed off than I left. So
right. That canceled each other out there.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing better than going with 8 guys to a golf trip. And, we do that often. I feel like every other month, maybe not that often, but But, it's funny, and I said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again. Every time I play with someone that plays professional hockey, they innately have a good swing. There's that crossover in the motion of the turn and the rotation of the hips. So it's and by the way, they pound the ball. You guys pound the ball. I mean, I haven't seen you hit the ball, but I'm just assuming at 6'1", 215, pure muscle, you probably fucking smoke it when you square it up. But
yeah, exactly, when I square it up.
But it's that crossover, and I'm seeing more guys now, especially some of the younger hockey players that are playing juniors and whatnot. I mean, they're all into golf, and I don't know if it's because golf is taken off, especially since COVID, or if it's because now more hockey players are transitioning to playing golf as a pastime. I don't know what it is.
I think also it allows, because hockey is such a fast-paced sport, right? And things are always moving, and it's not like football where well, I guess the one time would be off a face-off. You can have a set play drawn up, but there's still so many variables of if the puck bounces over the D-man stick and all of a sudden the puck's out of the zone, and then you just sort of have to go back to basics and make reads after that. In golf, you're out there, the ball, you can see it sitting there, or it's laying in the fairway or sitting on the green, and it's all about your preparation and your mindset, and it just sort of slows things down for you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of hockey players like it as well, because it is slower as a sport, but the mental grind and, the mental side of things is something that is so important. And no matter what you do in life, but I think it's important to have control over your thoughts and not get too emotional. And that's a lot easier said than done when you miss the green from 100 yards out and you decide to snap your club over your knee. But essentially that's where you want to get to.
Sounds like
control
it's happened.
Of your emotions. Yeah, it has happened. Yeah. Yeah, it has happened. I'd like to think I'm not that emotional on the golf course. I try to, I have I can rip myself a new asshole on the golf course, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
But sort of once I get my swear words out and get that out, I sort of move on, and I like to have a good time. I don't like to, mope around the golf course. But the one time, Cherry Creek Country Club, I was having a match on my home course with a buddy from Sweden that was over here visiting. Came down to 18. He'd put it on the green already. I'm like 160 out. A little bit windy that day, and there's water in front of the 18th green. I hit it pretty fat. I still thought I had a chance to get up there, drop it in the water. The match is over. And it's on 18th on my course. It's car pass only. So I brought like 3 different clubs out there, and I decided to snap one that felt so good over my knee. Never snapped the club before. I snapped another one. I snapped the third one. All of a sudden, I'm walking back to the car.
Nothing.
Pretty rattled. Yeah, I've got nothing in my hands other than 6 pieces of golf clubs, and my buddy's just giggling in the cart, and the match was over. So
it is the best feeling in the world, though.
It is.
A club throw, a snapping over your knee, it is the best feeling in the world. But then you feel like a bag of shit whenever you do it.
Yeah, and then you look up and you see the patios full of people sitting there, and you kind of feel like an asshole. But I was due for new clubs anyway. So those are old Nikes that don't even make anymore. So I was due.
That's great. Pradera, have you ever played over at Pradera?
I have played Pradera.
Yeah.
Great track.
Great track. Yeah. Phenomenal views, I feel. Yeah. And that's the greatest thing about it for me whenever I'm over in Colorado playing golf, dude. The ball flies.
Is that where Michael Lyles had a hole-in-one with you?
No, that was in Vail.
I think did you play with John Michael Lyles?
I have played with him, yeah.
But wasn't he on your team, though? Did you play for the Colorado Avalanche?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he did.
He was playing for Boston and Carolina when I came in the league. He had already got traded from the
long story short, Bash he had a hole-in-one with Bash.
Yeah, I was playing with him this summer. We were at Cordillera over outside of Vail. So it's me, him, and Neil Walker, buddy from Pittsburgh here. And so the 3 of us are playing. And it's like a 240-yard downhill par 3 up there on the summit course. And he hit 7 wood, I believe. and it was just all over the fucking stick. I mean, you didn't know if it was going to be short, long, or in the hole, but you just knew it was at the stick, and this thing just dropped in, hit a little right, released, and rolled right in. And the three of us there, we're jumping up in the air, right? Like, we're like high-fiving each other. But no, it's cool whenever you see that happen. I've only had 2. Pep's had
only had 2. You're talking to somebody with a big fat goose egg, so careful what you wish for. I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for one.
Just you got your Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
what the hell else? You got your Stanley Cup. The least you can do is have a hole in one.
Yeah.
Jesus. So when you and the boys are playing, the drinks are flowing. Depending on the day, obviously. If you don't have a game the next or practice the next day, not playing before games. But what's the choice of drink on the course?
Oh, man. I mean, honestly, I'm a pretty classic beer guy. So Bud Light or Coors Light, but also big fan of, just like I think a lot of golfers, big fan of the seltzers that have come out. High Noon's a personal favorite.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sort of nice to start out with a couple of beers and then you transition into seltzers. I think that's a great way of going about it. Good John Daly's good. Birdie juice, find some sort of birdie juice, and then you're good.
We had a guy on that was telling us transfusions. He was playing at Augusta National, and he asked the bartender for a transfusion. The bartender said, "No, that's actually non-alcoholic. I guess the real transfusion is called a confusion." And
Really?
And it originated at Augusta. So
you're saying that
confusion,
the one with alcohol is a confusion?
Yes, and a transfusion is non-alcoholic.
That's wild.
Wow, I didn't know that.
I had no freaking clue, and I love the things.
Delicious. I was introduced to them this summer. I didn't know what it was before that, but
Drink a million of them.
See,
Yeah.
but I'm like you though, Gabe. Like the High Noon, I'm a beer guy. I like to drink beer a little bit. I don't
We're
drink
not talking
much.
about High Noon, like
But no.
high.
Well, that's a good thing too. But High Noons, they do not leave you bloated. There's no sugar, 100 calories. Like, you can drink those on a nice warm summer day and not feel weird. Well, you get to feel weird, but anyways.
I hear you.
Well, listen, man, it's been awesome having this little banner going with you here. And again, congrats on the Cup win. And we're going to transition this over to the last segment of the show called the Tap In segment, presented by Bettinardi Golf. Jonathan's going to ask you some questions that demand your quick-witted response. So I'm going to let him take it away.
All right. Lowest round and where?
77 at just a public course here in Colorado.
Hey, 77's good, boys.
Yeah.
Drink of choice out of the Stanley Cup.
Oh, man, that first sip of champagne.
Boom.
Can't beat it.
Love it. All right. Your favorite fight of your NHL career. And I know that's the thing. I know a lot of you guys don't like doing that, but we'll go with your favorite.
Favorite fight?
Yeah.
I would say a fight that I probably lost. It was against Shea Weber, Nashville, and he's a big boy, and just a man, just the man strength. And I ran over Roman Josi. I kind of came down the wall, and he had his head down, and I ran him over. Didn't think much of it. Didn't realize that Shea Weber was his D partner at the time, and before I knew it, I stood up and had Shea Weber all over me, and it felt like I had bricks hitting the side of my helmet. But I kind of held my own and started chucking them back, and that was a pretty good fight.
That's one of those ones where you drop them and you're like, oh, fuck.
Yep, you don't have much of a choice.
All right, last question. What are you chasing?
Birdies.
Oh,
it
man.
is.
That's so fitting. I love it.
I thought another Stanley Cup or a hole in one, but we'll go with birdies.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to go with, but another Stanley Cup is absolutely on the radar. But more birdies on the golf course, another Stanley Cup on the ice. I think that sums it up.
Well, you guys are sitting pretty right now, just a couple points back behind Dallas, and I know you're kind of on the mend, so continue with that. But hey, you're right where you want to be at this point. I know it's early.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on, and I'd love to get together on the golf course at some point with you guys.
Yeah, let's do that.
Man, oh man. What would you drink out of the Stanley Cup, bud? Milk? Eh?
Actually, you know what? A little protein shake would be great. Some squashed
With
berries.
a straw?
Some smashed berries in there. A little straw action. Could you imagine that? Just sipping a straw out of the cup.
You know what I'm putting in there?
You're putting Chasin Birdies Blonde Ale? Tequila.
Yeah, that. I'm a big
There you
tequila
go.
guy now, huh? Casamigos in there. Big
Well,
tequila guy now.
You know, that's funny. Last week we went to dinner with Junior and Tango and Bimmer and Matt Stale, and you know, it's like Pep is now the tequila guy. My man doesn't know which one he's ordering. He's like, is this the white one or the dark one? I'm just kidding. I agree though. I think
it's true though. It's true though. So,
it is, but
man, what a player Landeskog has been for a long time. And you look at his stats since he's been drafted. I mean, second overall. The guy's been a dynamite part of the team, and it's good to see the guy hoist the Stanley Cup past season. So they've been loaded with talent in Colorado, but how about him? You know, snapping some club. There's something just about snapping a golf club every year.
well, and the cool thing is, like I said, there's such that crossover between these guys in golf, and we're all golf nuts, but you know, we're gonna have the ability to bring Landeskog up to Nemacolin, which obviously is 5-star all around. Get him playing some golf up there, enjoy the resort a little bit, and you know, I look forward to that, man. That's part of the fun thing about Chasin Birdies.
Yeah, and thank you again to Nemacolin for helping the show out. We appreciate you all. Go to nemacolin.com. I know he is stoked to come there in 2023. So, again, guys, thank you for being a partner to the show. But we got some cool stuff happening that's actually coming out tomorrow, December 9th. Why don't you tell everybody about it, Mark?
Announcements.
You've been working hard.
Yeah, well, Jonathan's been working really hard. I just told him, honestly, I said, I don't know what the hell's going on right now. But anyways, we got 12 days of Christmas coming up here, people, starting tomorrow, December the 9th. Basically, we're doing some good giveaways for 12 days. You got to follow along on the social media, Chasin_Birdies on Instagram, and just participate. We got some really couple holderness pieces, dozen of golf balls. We got some hats.
Bettinardi is throwing some swag in there for us to help us out. So again, thank you to Bettinardi. They've been wonderful. But who knows? We might even box you up and ship you to somebody's front door, huh? Like ship stick.
Yeah, you got to open me up, unwrap me, and then you get a whole day with me, and I will talk. I am not afraid to talk. I will
Bash
talk.
will be your little elf on the shelf for the day, bud.
Yeah, put a little cap on me, a little onesie, and just tell me where you want me to go, boys. I'm in. But it's gonna be good. It's the season here, people. It's Christmas, and you know we're stoked about it, doing this little giveaway thing. But
and thanks to all the girls for helping out with this as well, man. I mean,
oh my god,
Jacqueline and Rachel, they've done all this. So thank you, ladies. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
so much for putting these photos together.
And I'm really excited, dude, because it lines up perfectly. I know today is the 8th, but the next drop is on the 22nd. And we are ending the year, people, with a banner sesh. Me and Pep going at it, yucking it up. We may, who knows? We may even call someone in randomly just to throw some excitement out there. Who knows who it'll be?
Yeah.
But that's how we're wrapping up the year, people. And we got a full slate of events in 2023. A couple good golf events, Nemacolin, Writers Circle, Writers Retreat, whatever. Calcutta going on. And Pep's already planning for 24, so here we go. But
here we go, boys. The golf trips are on the books.
Yeah, bud. So anyways, man. Well, look, dude, why don't you get back to your little shindig you're doing here with these pings? What else you want to say, man?
Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you to Gabe Landeskog for getting on with us yo-yos. And of course, again, Jamie from 44 Concierge. Thank you for getting us hooked up. Make sure you go to chasinbirdies.com. Check it all out. Chasin_Birdies on Instagram for the 12 days of Christmas, because there is some cool stuff that you can use. And like I said, who knows? Bash may even be part of that. So
maybe. But no, guys, thank you. Y'all enjoy your weekend. And thank you to Evo and his team over at Simpler Media for putting this thing together. Rachel London, Jacqueline DiPaterio, as we already thanked you. Thank you again. Thanks to Jamie over at 44 for putting this thing together with Gabe. And we'll catch you all on the flip side.